Last week on the Poisonrana Patreon, we were joined by Emmy Award-winning producer and host of the Ruthless Aggression podcast over at the Barber's Chair Network, Pierce Roberson, to talk all about John Cena's third reign as WWE Champion in a brand new episode of The Champ Is Here. Vince McMahon comes out and, oh boy, like, you need to catch me up on this because he's talking about Donald Trump. He's talking about Rosie O'Donnell. So there's this Rosie O'Donnell, Donald Trump feud going on.
Yeah,
that was real. That was shoot, brother.
So there was beef between Rosie and Donald at the time. Rosie was on The View, and Donald was doing The Apprentice. And I'm blanking on the exact way that it started, but it was, you know, what you think. One person was being extremely misogynistic and possibly, you know, gay bashing towards
Rosie O'Donnell was, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely Rosie O'Donnell. And then the other person was just treating that person like a megalomaniac, and, you know, barbs get traded back and forth. And here we are all these years later where I don't know what Rosie O'Donnell is doing, but God.
She's still talking about Trump. I know that. But I mean, a lot of people are. His rogues gallery got a lot bigger since 2007.
Get this show plus NXT retro reviews, wrestling reviews, movie reviews, and so much more over at patreon.com/poisonrana. And it's only $5. So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
Poisonrana.
Hello. Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana Live. It is Sunday, November 17th. It's 1 p.m., a rare 1 p.m. show, aren't we? We're live on a 1 p.m. because we got things to do today. We got to see some wrestling live.
We do. We're going to see some wrestling. We're going to see who's been ID'd. I believe the first Canadian to be ID'd is happening today in this very city. So yeah, we're starting an hour earlier today. Thank you for anyone who's found us, who's joined us today. And thank you to anyone listening after the fact.
Yes.
We're Braden and Davie, and we're here to talk some wrestling.
Yes, we're going to chat about some wrestling, including the biggest sports entertainment pay-per-view of the year. That was also possibly not real fighting. We'll talk about that too. That happened on Netflix just on Friday night. But yes, hit that subscribe here on the podcast app you're using or YouTube, Poisonrana Pod. Give us a follow on all the socials, including Davie's even got us a blue sky for those of you who are in the blue skies above. You can join us. You can follow.
Yeah, it's thank you for everyone who's followed us so far. It's pretty cool over at Blue Sky. Our followers are picking up pretty quickly, pretty nicely, and it's kind of cool seeing some new names that I don't recognize giving us a follow as well. So if you have made the switch, if you have moved over to Blue Sky and abandoned the shithole, which is X, give us a follow at Poisonrana Pod.
Yeah, it's so, like, we use Twitter because of, you know, the wrestling community. It seems like it was such a, like, that's why I've been using Twitter for so long, is because it's become such a normal thing. Like, okay, what's going on in wrestling? It's the quickest way, you know, okay, post wrestling, okay, Fightful, like following all the things. And then lately it's just become, you said it, like a cesspool of propaganda of just like bizarre things, no matter what way you lean. Even like for someone like me, I'm like, why am I seeing Elon Musk tweet all the time? Why am I seeing way too many titties? Why am I seeing, which no, usually I wouldn't complain about, but it's become just like the worst fucking place to be on lately. So yeah, why not make the switch if you haven't? I know people might be jumping back to Facebook. We do have a group, we do have a page. You can like it and you can find the group as well. But I just find like Twitter used to be a fun place where we share memes. It can still be that place, but lately it's just not it.
It's interesting because, and I know John and Brandon Thurston were talking about it this week on Pollock and Thurston. I know Dickie Bird went on a massive rant about X on our latest episode of Eagles Don't Hunt Flies. But yeah, I think when Elon like first bought Twitter and made it X, there was like chatter, I'm leaving this, I'm going to go to Threads or whatever. And it didn't really take off. Whereas this time it kind of feels like a lot of people are like, no, I'm over this, I'm done. And Blue Sky seems to be the destination. Like, I blocked Elon, and yet I still see his stuff for some reason. I don't think I follow a single political account. I use Twitter for wrestling. Like, I got Twitter way back when it first started. I never really used it until I started doing Up Next with you. So all the accounts I follow are like friends, celebrities, and mainly wrestling. And yet my whole feed is fucking US politics. I'm not even American. Blue Sky is the place to be. So give us a follow at Poisonrana Pod, at Davie Portman, at the Braden.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely done stuff on Instagram. Shout out anyone who's joined us on there. We had our old account taken by, so we've got some people following us on this new one. So give us a follow on Insta if you haven't. We tend to interact on there. So you can interact with any way, shape, or form. It's just like Twitter just feels like just weird, just awkward. Like the fact that he's turned this thing into just a big machine that I do not enjoy anymore. So I still like, my habit is still going to it, right? Like I wake up like, okay, I didn't watch Raw. Let's see what happened on Raw. And that's how I consume it, or YouTube, right? So it's like, I still find I'm like, oh, let's go. And then I'm like scrolling for like 10 seconds and I'm like, oh yeah, this sucks. So I go back to my brick block game or whatever. But anyways, we will also be live on Tuesday on the Post Wrestling Network for a new Up Next. So join us for that. But some brief housekeeping for those keeping track of Poisonrana. We are going away next week for Full Gear. And then Davie from New York is flying over back home. So he will be away for a little bit. It does not mean the Patreon shows aren't stopping, because we have banked some pretty awesome shows and still will be before the travels happen. So follow that, and I'll get to those in a second. But I do believe that we'll have, I think I'll still try to do a War Game show in some way, shape, or form. With who, that remains to be seen, but probably safe to say that War Games is not next week. War
Games 30th. Full Gear, we'll be doing a quick show in our Uber from the Prudential Center on the way to Rudy's. I got our Uber drivers confirmed to be Andy. He's confirmed he's picking us up. I've let him know we're going to be recording in the back.
I'm shook by this. Let's explain this story. So you were smart enough to pre-book an Uber at what, like midnight after Full Gear?
I think 12:15, right? Like, yeah.
12:15. Ooh, you think it'll be done? I think it'll be done by 12. I think it'll be done.
They're 4 hours. They're 4 hours, and then allow time to get out, and so we can wait around for 10 minutes, I think. So
yeah. So you've pre-booked this Uber from Prudential Center, Jersey, to take us to Manhattan right after the event. Mm-hmm. Now, fantastic idea. The fact that you can pre-book Ubers and everything is awesome. I'm just skeptical of the guy showing up there and it's utter chaos. And he's like, no, fuck that. And then cancels and gets like a ride for like 3 times the surge price.
Well, Andy confirmed now.
Okay.
So
what do you say?
I got a message saying Andy will be your driver. He will be there. So fingers crossed. Like, if he cancels, like, we were going to Uber anyway. So
yeah.
I
think it's interesting.
We might get Andy on the show, hopefully. So
Andy's gonna be great.
I'll message him beforehand. Make sure you watch at least the main event of Full Gear.
Bring your toys.
We can chat about it. Yeah,
that's a joke. Andy joke. I feel like that's crazy, and we're gonna be following this update of whether or not Andy does in fact give us a ride to Rudy's, and maybe he shows up with us.
Yeah. So
post Full Gear party at Rudy's Manhattan. Maybe, possibly. I'm excited. So yeah, we will be doing some sort of Full Gear review in the wild in New York at some point this weekend. So probably not going live for that, but we will record it and put it up and everything. So you'll get our full thoughts this weekend. Today, we're going to go through a preview and predictions for Full Gear and everything. So not the most excited I am for a pay-per-view, especially AEW pay-per-views, but you know what? They usually deliver, and every time we've ever been to one, which we've been lucky enough to be at quite a few, we usually leave pretty happy and being like, oh man, that was a banger of a show. So I am still excited. We're gonna get to meet up with some of our friends. Shout out BSK. We're gonna be seeing some of them, I'm sure, for Prudential and Sino and everything. So definitely looking forward to that. Follow all the socials for our journey and pictures and videos and stuff like that, especially from the show on Sunday. But then, yeah, you'll be away for a little bit. So we will still have up next. I know that we'll have a special What Up Doe next. I forget what's their version. What Up Next?
What Up Next? I
what
think.
Up Next, though?
Yeah.
They'll be filling in a week or so, and then we'll be kind of sprinkling in some guests and stuff. But lots and lots of podcasts. They never stop because wrestling never stops. So we are always here for you in the next. But again, just follow the socials for everything, because we'll have lots and lots of shows, just like our patreon.com/Poisonrana. $5 to become a friend. You'll get access to the first 3 episodes of The Champ Is Here, plus the 4th that we will be dropping just this week, or recording just this week. I'm very excited about this one because we're looking at the 4th title reign of John Cena.
Oh, yeah. We'll be starting from his surprise turn at the Rumble, going through to his failed attempts at No Way Out and WrestleMania, and then another injury leading to his big win at Survivor Series and the feud that follows. Jericho, Elimination Chamber, rekindling an old feud with JBL. And for this, we've got a very special guest, Josh Nason from Wrestling Observer Newsletter and the Limitless Wrestling Podcast. He'll be joining us. It's been really fun having fresh guests on this show. We just had Pierce Roberson, who was fantastic. We've had so many great feedback of our guest Pierce on that show for episode 3, which was a mammoth show, and I can't thank him enough, because it's a lot to ask of someone. Like, asking someone to watch a few matches is cool. Asking someone to watch over a year's worth of John Cena WWE programming is a lot, and I thought Pierce was fantastic.
Oh yeah, we talked about like over 380 days of what happened in just under 3 hours. So pretty crazy that we did that. And Pierce was a pro, and we've been waiting to do a show with him for so long. And that definitely just scratched the itch, scratched the surface of what we can do, because not only did we have that with Pierce being an Emmy award-winning producer.
Oh yeah.
Not the only Emmy award winner we have on the Patreon this month, because our friend, Emmy award-winning Reckless Rob, he will be joining us, because if you've listened, we've gone through all the Batman movies and kind of anything Batman adjacent. Rob has made sure to fill in the cracks with some of his Up Yours picks that we've had him on for. We've reviewed Suicide Squad, but now we are looking at the Suicide Squad, the second one, because they added the in front of it. The Suicide Squad. With John Cena. So it kind of correlates with the other show as well, like filling in the gaps of, hey, John Cena's one of his biggest roles is Peacemaker, and it started with this show. So Rob joins us for the whole show. We actually pre-recorded this already, and he joined us live in the BDE, and this made for a really fun show. Like, I forgot how funny the Suicide Squad really is. So I
definitely think this was one of those films, like, being slightly removed from it. I think you just think of all the shit DC's put out. You think of the first Suicide Squad, and then removing yourselves and then watching it years later. I had so much fun with this, not just watching the film, but talking about it as well.
Yeah, we go into it where DC is, and Rob is definitely well-versed with the comic book side of stuff. So it made for a great chat. So that's one of the pods coming out with a future Up Yours with the Suicide Squad. So 2 Emmy Award winners on the show, on that, just incredible. We have some
Aren't we
crazy
spoiled?
Yeah, we have some crazy friends, some crazy guests out there, and we'll continue to have some more shows. We dropped a Was Next, chatting about some old NXT. We will be looking at a War Games. We will be looking at a Saturday night's main event. So we keep it rolling here at Poisonrana, because wow, we got some fun shows coming on the Patreon. So again, patreon.com/Poisonrana, $5. And while I'm at it, chop-tees.com/Poisonrana, so you can get yourself some snapbacks, some hoodies, some sweatshirts, some t-shirts. We got all the different merch, all repping our show. You can be looking real froggy style with chop-tees.com/Poisonrana is where you can go to represent us, acknowledge us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, gorgeous stuff. And make sure you send us pictures when you've bought your merch. Send us a picture. send a hashtag. I also want photos in the most interesting place, you know? Like, you're visiting the Great Wall of China. I want to see you wearing a Poisonrana beanie on the Great Wall of China. You know, like, see what's the coolest place you can have a photo in our merch. And tag us on Instagram, Blue Sky, or maybe X, if that's still your destination.
That's still allowed. It's fine. But yes, especially if you're at a wrestling event, rocking the frog. Definitely respect. Love it. But yes, that's all what's kind of going on with us. Also, last plug, I swear, Toronto, anyone out there listening who is interested in joining our War Games watch party, well, you can. Go to poisonrana.ca for tickets right now. Limited seating available here. We're doing this at a dive bar called Toronto Style in the 6th, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Dundas and Bloor is where this is happening, and we're gonna have War Games on. We're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna see who's the true sole survivor that night on Sunday, November 30th. So join us, as it will be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to this War Games. Like the pay-per-view has my interest with the main event match that I'm sure we'll get into, but I think some of the other matches are shaping up to look pretty good too. And we were kind of like on the fence about doing it. You're away and everything, but so many people were asking, so I'm looking forward to this party.
Yeah, I actually served someone last night who said he went to our event at Wide Open, went to our previous events at Gabby's, and has already bought his tickets for Toronto Style. So, yeah, come along. We look forward to hosting you all.
Absolutely. Well, we do have some wrestling to go to because we mentioned we usually go live at 2, but the Northern Crown is this new indie fed in Toronto. I think it's their 3rd show, and our friend Benno is in town, so we were looking to take him to some wrestling and some good beer at Blood Brothers, but we kind of wanted to beat the traffic and make sure we can get there in time for the start. But then, yeah, we saw that WWE ID said that someone, first Canadian, will be ID'd at this show later today. So we'll see what happens if there's is William Regal going to show up with a clipboard, or who's the adjacent Tyson Kidd or
Robbie Brookside.
Yeah, someone shows up with the clip like, hey, you've been ID'd. And like there's been some awesome Canadian talent that there's a few that I can like think of who it's going to be. And Josh Alexander's on the show in the main event against Fuerza and Vertigo, and I know those two are like, probably one of those two is probably would be maybe my guess for that ID thing, but who knows? Maybe there's multiple.
I feel Alexander's a little above.
No, not Alexander. No, I mean the other.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. Like I feel like there's a lot of independent wrestlers that it would help out and everything. Like I so far, like hopefully this isn't like the NXT UK thing where it's you then get stuck with all these like, can't lose a match, or you shouldn't book this person in this. I hope it doesn't come to that kind of stuff. But.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll watch this space, I guess.
That's all we can do for that, I guess. But yeah, looking forward to seeing some wrestling later today.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Where do we want to start? Because there was a huge fight this week. I'm talking Arena Mexico, CMLL. Kimonito versus Kimalito, the little bears, the little lucha bear guys, the little monkeys.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
They had a match on Friday night, and from the clips I saw, looked like maybe one of the best matches this year. But instead, most people were watching this other fight from this bingo hall down in Arlington, Texas, called the AT&T Stadium. Mike Tyson taking on Jake Paul. You were working Friday night at the bar. I'm assuming you had this on.
We did, yeah.
Or tried to, I guess.
I was working, so I was serving, but also basically trying to run the tech side of things as well. We set up the projector outside, and this shows what like a draw, I guess this was, because it was pretty cold and we were packed. We had the patio packed, people watching outside, like round heaters trying to watch this thing, and inside. But the thing with our setup, we needed basically 2 different Netflix accounts going at the same time, and painfully trying to sync up because it was just the audio from one and the video from the other. So we'd get it perfectly synced, and then one would buffer and it would be out of sync, and the other would buffer. So I'm running around. I'm still serving, wings and beer and shots and all that. And then someone would be, hey, man, this is like a minute out of sync. I'm like, okay, on it. And would get it fixed. And it was a while where we thought maybe it was our internet. And then we start seeing like other people on, saying, oh, this is a worldwide issue. There's so many people trying to watch this thing that the servers are down. But I think everyone was grateful to be able to watch it. And it was a pretty fun night. I'm not a boxing fan. And I know boxing fans are like, this is outrageous. This is a sham and all that. I'm kind of in two minds about it because you can't deny the promotion of this thing. And that's what boxing, like all these things are. It's promotion. And I think they did a hell of a job promoting this thing. And I think on, Netflix, everyone has it. You're not asking for $70 to watch this fight. You've probably, if you've not got an account, your friend's got an account, So like, I'm not surprised so many people watch this thing. And yeah, I feel if, actual real boxing maybe needs to up their game on making us care. Because if we care more about an ex-boxer in his 50s and a YouTuber having a fight than actual world-class boxers, I think that's more of a comment on boxing today rather than, oh, this shit Netflix is putting on.
I feel like not a lot of like boxing obviously used to have its day, but like lately it's only when there's big fights. I think back to like Mayweather and Mayweather Logan Paul, which I guess was a big one for some people, but like Mayweather McGregor, which is also kind of a, WWE style promoted fight that happened, like crossover there. Like they tend to do these big kind of almost WWE style, like productions where it's like they're not even actual boxers and anything. But I think what you got out of this is you also had like a pretty good actual boxing match, as your co-main event with those women just absolutely killing each other in that fight. And I feel like maybe the true boxing fans at least like got that when they watched the show. But I mean, everyone was tuned in. I find it so interesting because Mike Tyson was such a polarizing character, but no matter what, like everybody knew him back in the day. So like me and you are around the same age, but like he technically retired like 25 years ago or something like that. So the thing a few years ago where it was like a sparring match, like I think everyone, at least in the combat sports or wrestling, where anyone in that sports world is like interested to see. And then you did, and it was like a sparring match. And I think it left even like the worst taste in your mouth because you're like, well, the guy's Jack he's still fighting. Like, why don't you just actually have a match? And I'm sure that was what came out of that was, fuck it. Why don't we just actually have you fight? Because that was a crock of shit. So this time around, I think you had like a lot of people like, oh, we never got to actually watch him fight live. We're always watching the YouTube clips and everything. Like we know he's become so famous since retiring wrestling. Think of all the times he's been made fun of in The Simpsons or he's in The Hangover. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like he's become such a bigger thing than boxing. He's become just like the famous guy with the crazy guy with the lisp and the pigeons. So this had this like this giant net over like everything. And I'd say he was the bigger draw than obviously anyone could have fought Tyson and you would have got like this kind of reception. But using the Paul brothers, if you will, like smarts and how to promote and do all this shit. Like I'd say everyone this week, whether it was like people in our circles or coworkers or even strangers at the bar, like, oh yeah, is the fight this week? Oh yeah, is there a fight this week? Oh yeah, it was moved. Yeah, it's fight. Until that slap, which was perfectly executed. And I think Jake Paul even said after the fight, like, yo, you helped this fight. Cause that slap instantly was this Thursday before. Yeah. Everyone, every news outlet I was working at work, every fucking thing, everybody was talking about it. And then the next day's the fight. Like that was very, very smart. So was it the best fight? Was Mike Tyson looking good and spry in this fight? Not really. Was I entertained by this almost beautiful disaster, this car crash TV that I think I wasn't alone in on? I got to see what happens. And at the end of the day, I think I'm just happy Jake didn't knock Tyson out. I think I've come to terms with, hey, at least
yeah,
get knocked out.
And I think he was holding back as well.
You do? Okay.
I do, yeah. I think there was a couple of times in like the mid rounds where he rocked Tyson, and I think he could have just gone in. And
Right.
I think say what you will about Jake Paul, I really don't like the man, but I think even he was like, I can't knock out Mike Tyson. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the fight wasn't great at all, but I kind of enjoyed the whole thing. Like it was fun, like having the bar packed and knowing everyone is watching or attempting to watch the same thing. I think it's pretty fun, and I do kind of enjoy these things. I mean, if we want to relate it, I think nostalgia is such a heavy thing, right? Like the Ric Flair's last match, I think, is the second biggest independent wrestling show of all time, just behind the first All In, right? Because people are curious. There's that nostalgia. I think whenever you have any of these retired wrestlers come back, there's a kind of thing where you go in, you're like, this is probably not going to be very good. This is probably going to make me sad, but man, I want to see it. You see it with rock bands, bands who are now in their 70s, and they're like, we're doing one more tour. And it's like, oh man, well, I might not be the Stones of old, but I still kind of would like to see the Stones before I can't see them anymore. And I think you get that so much in all forms of entertainment. So this did mammoth numbers for Netflix, but the wrestling fans in us have to be concerned with the production, because they were not ready for this, because their servers kept crashing. Ours was running pretty smoothly until it was the co-main event. And that's when all the buffering issues were just going crazy. And you think you are going to get that curiosity, sort of that, especially that first Raw on Netflix, if you're loading that up, if you've got The Rock and, all these names that people remember from the past and hit on that nostalgia, and it's live on Netflix and it's promoted in a big way, you should get bigger numbers than they do on USA. And can their servers handle it? Or is this good? Is this a bit of a test run? Is this the equivalent of NXT Arrival to test out the issues with the network before going to WrestleMania 30? I mean, I don't think Raw's going to do the numbers.
I was gonna say, there's no way that a year's worth doesn't make up to the views this has gotten in a day. But
they're new to live content. We've got the Christmas Day NFL games. That's going to do mammoth numbers. They're going to have to really sort that out.
Yeah, because when they did the Chris Rock returns to do stand-up special, the first time since being slapped by Will Smith, they had Netflix signed a deal with Chris Rock. And when it aired live, I remember that I had a friend over and we're like, oh, let's put this on. Sorry, unable to cast live event. I'm like, excuse me, I pay for Netflix. Why is this not working? Went to Twitter, realized this is happening to everyone. I thought, well, that fucking sucks. Didn't watch it and left the house. This time around, I come home. I forgot about that. Go to cast. Sorry, you can't cast live events. I'm like, what? Why? So I quickly look. Apparently, multiple people having this exact same issue. So that is something that they really need to fix, because I used an illegal stream when the feed went down, and it was working better than the legal streams for me for about over an hour, until about the actual main event fight started, the video package. And I said, let me try again. And I had to use a VPN to actually have my Netflix work for it to actually stream the fight for me. So they're saying that in total watching live, we're over 60 mil or something like that. But by the end of the fight, at least 120 million had people at least at one point had watched already by the end of the thing. That's fucking crazy. That's a lot of people. Yeah. And that is probably why the stream was crapping out. But when you hear people saying, yeah, the stream was ass, I don't know if they're talking about Netflix. I think they're talking about when their feed came back. It's literally Mike Tyson's ass. The fight was kind of shit. But the things we got out of this will remain forever legendary, iconic. Like Mike Tyson being interviewed, kisses Ariel and says, "I love you," and then walks off, and he's in a thong. And the camera guy clearly is like, "Oh shit," and tries to like, I don't know what to do.
It felt like Attitude Era stuff, didn't it? It felt, was Vince McMahon directing this shit?
Oh, fuck. I watched this so many times. Like my feed came back, and this is all I see is this dude's ass. I'm like, what the fuck? So, yeah, say what you want about the fight. We got that moment that will like be remembered forever. When Mike Tyson passes away, years from now, people will be talking about this fight, and people will be talking about how his ass was broadcasted to over 120 million people over Netflix. And I say, hey, when Mike Tyson dies, because did you see the other interview leading up to this with the little kid, the little girl?
I didn't. I just read that Tyson said that he almost died earlier in the year.
That was something else. You're talking about the AIDS thing, right? Jesus Christ. That's what you're talking about. Yeah, we're getting some great Mike Tysonisms to promote this fight. So he said that him and his friend used to, I don't know, share the same person, and then those two got AIDS and died, and then he didn't. Yeah. Very odd thing to reveal. I don't think anyone asked you about that. You had to have brought that up.
No, I'm talking. He said in June he had 8 blood transfusions, lost half his blood and 25 pounds, and had to fight to get healthy.
Maybe it has something to do with that. I'm not, because he recently brought the other thing up. So interesting, weird. I was also referring to this like little girl is interviewing him, and she's like, "Oh my God, Mike Tyson," who's like, you were born like 10 years ago, but she's like, "Oh, Mike Tyson, what's it like getting back in the ring?" and mentions the word legacy. And he just proceeds to not clock in that this is like a little girl interviewing him. I recommend watching this. He just starts talking about like, I hate when people talk about legacy. I'm going to be in the ground. We're all going to be dust. We're all going to die one day. He just starts going off about dying. I'm like, Jesus, it's a little kid asking you these things. So, yeah.
But he kind of sounded like that in his post-fight, didn't he? He's like, "Oh, do you feel you proved people wrong? You were able to go the 8 rounds and all that." He's like, "I don't give a fuck about proving anything to anyone. All I want to do is prove something to myself, and I did." So... Oh man, which you got to admire that kind of attitude, I think.
Love it. It's ridiculous. Like it was so bizarre watching him fight live, because like I said, when I was younger, getting into wrestling and fighting and all that stuff, like I would use YouTube and watch all clips of him, because his knockouts compilations, his promo compilations, let alone his knockout compilations. So I felt like at least it was cool seeing this. I know he calls out Logan Paul. I hope that doesn't happen. I think that's such a like down.
I think it was more Logan calling him out, wasn't it? I can't remember.
I think he brings him up first.
Right.
He said his name first, and then Logan says, "Motherfucker, I'd kill you." But
look, I don't need to see Tyson fight again. However, Mike, please bring back Mike Tyson mysteries.
I know you're a big fan of that.
It's so much better than your fights now. I know Norm Macdonald has passed on, rest in peace, but you can find another pigeon, Mike. You've got plenty of them.
Yeah. What again, just a shit show, but it had everybody watching. It's not often that like that many people tune into the exact same thing, all at once on a Friday night. So I kind of like when that happens. And boxing, it brings people in, because you'll have people who like, oh yeah, I know everything that's going on for this fight. But most of the time, like no one does. They're there to watch the main event and see exactly, like everyone wanted to see a knockout. We didn't get that, but probably for the best, because that would have broken more people's hearts if we saw Tyson getting knocked out by a YouTuber, which would be bad. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. Also, do you think Shawn Michaels has already signed the Ring Girls?
Probably, or they're next in line, I would say.
NIL deals, they've been ID'd.
They've been ID'd.
We'll talk about it on Tuesday. By then, they'll probably be signed to a deal. But yeah, they were also the standouts of the fight. Why were they in the ring for half the thing? Like, there's people trying to be interviewed, and it's just like,
no, that's like they have to be in the shot. It's like part of the deal that they have to be in shot all the time. It's always quite funny. They're like Alex Abrahantes. They have to be there.
No, come on. They're a lot better than Alex Abrahantes. Very talented young ladies. Yeah. Anyways, that was the Netflix fight. That's our coverage. How did we do discussing something that wasn't WWE? But is it so far off from WWE? That was something I saw from a lot of people who don't watch wrestling, who don't watch everything, like usually like the casuals. And they're all like, this was pretty like fake. It looked kind of, produced and everything like that. And I could totally see why people think that. I had my questions while watching the Mayweather Logan Paul fight, but this one, I don't know. Do you think there's like, hey, we're going to give you 20 million and you're going to take a dive? Yeah. All right. You know how many pigeons he could buy?
Yeah.
The 20 million. Crazy times. What's the next big fight though? Like when's the next time we get to one of these? Like Pacquiao, Mayweather. Mayweather's more of a boring fighter anyways, but
I mean, I'd say Mayweather's the bigger name. He's someone that crossed over more, but there aren't, as I said, like boxing, like they've done nothing. Like you've got, you've got Fury, Wilder, Joshua, right? But they don't do these kind of numbers. So I don't know. I feel boxing needs to up their game.
Yeah, we need a ID or a next in line for boxing. That's what we need. But yeah. Good stuff from Netflix, and hopefully WWE we can watch it without having any service interruptions. But I'm sure we'll be fine. I think maybe they didn't expect this kind of coverage of so many people watching on a Friday night. I'm surprised you had people at the bar who, while Taylor Swift was playing down the road, everyone was still coming out for this event.
Oh yeah, like what a combination! Taylor and Tyson all in one night. Yeah.
Tyson's version. Well, we can talk about some actual wrestling now. We mentioned Full Gear. Do we want to start with AEW, WWE?
As the pay-per-view is coming up next week, let's maybe do Full Gear AEW start.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of where we're at with this because Jon Moxley seizing TBS Superstation. And
did he?
Yeah, I didn't really get that.
Or did he just cut a promo, like saying the same
stuff?
stuff?
What he usually does. Yeah, that's kind of what I got out of that. And then kind of pushing and promoting the Orange Cassidy match. We saw Orange get to cut a promo as well. I think like when it comes to the match, it'll be good. We've seen it quite a few times. They even reference it in the promos with Orange Cassidy, like, "Hey, I've beaten you before." It still just doesn't necessarily scream super interesting to me right now. Again, when the ring bell rings, it'll be fine. It'll be good. But I don't see Orange actually winning. It'll be tough to actually get people behind him thinking that, there's a chance. I don't know. And that's your main event world title kind of picture. And I'm not knocking Orange Cassidy because he had more of a run in AEW.
I feel this. I love Orange. I think he's great. I think he could be the world champion one day. And I think him beating Mox for the world championship is a good story. I can't see it being on the first title defense though. And I think if you were to tell this story in 3-4 months' time, maybe I'd buy Cassidy being the winner. But I just think I feel we're still at the early stage of this Death Riders takeover of AEW thing. And it feels like they're really setting up more for Davie down the line. So I think it'll be a good match. But it's just... it's better going into a match when you think there's a chance that the other guy can win. It makes it more interesting for me. And I still don't really understand, what Jon Moxley's issue is. It seems like he just hates the jobbers in AEW. Like that's his, because he's not targeting Hangman. He's not targeting Swerve. He's not targeting Okada. He's not targeting your top guys. He's targeting Chuck Taylor and Top Flight. So it just feels it doesn't feel completely thought out, and it feels very half-baked, this whole story, I think.
I know I've said this maybe before, but it's like, follow me for a sec. It reminds me of the Alliance. It's like, okay, hey, this guy, I'm taking over the company. AEW sucks, and I'm the man who's going to fix it. Like, Danielson, you needed to die for this to happen, and I'm sorry, but like AEW's in a bad place, and I'm saving it. I'm saving it from people like you. I'm saving it from Action Andretti and Chuck Taylor and fuck whoever else. Like, I bet you doesn't even know who these fuckers are. Like, it just so like, no, the story, like, unfortunately, the story would be Danielson coming back right away and being like, whoa, hold on a second. But that's obviously not it. So your biggest stars coming out of this to defend AEW are Orange Cassidy and Darby, who, again, not knocking, they are like homegrown AEW stars that they have made, you know, over these few years. It's just, I think the Mox story isn't that exciting, isn't that interesting. He took out Danielson and this like quietness took over. And I still think we're living in this quietness that when we see him, it's just like, oh yeah, Danielson's gone. Is he coming back? I don't really know. And when if he does come back to AEW, which hopefully is the case, I don't know. I'm just not feeling like that's the big, you know, this is your main event. And
I don't feel they've gone, pardon the pun, all in on this story. I think if the reason why, and there's a fine balance, right? Like, I know when the NWO took over and stuff, you've heard Jericho in promos being like, it kind of sucked that everything had to be about them. Like, I'd be having a cruiserweight title match and I would be asked a question about the NWO and that sort of thing. But I think at least for the early stage of it, it's got to be a complete takeover. It's got to be them just attacking everyone. Baby faces, heels, they don't care. They like hate this company the way it is, and they're targeting everyone. As Fire Frank says in the chat, it just seems like Moxie's not a fan of Rampage or Collision, and I mean, who is? But
cut it.
So yeah, I'm, you know, I just watched the November Rain video, and that got me way more hyped for this show than the actual TV. As I said, I love Orange Cassidy. I love the, you know, just missing the save for Chuck Taylor and him finally like being serious and like, fuck these people, fuck this guy, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna
wear black.
Yeah, I think he's great. I think he's been doing a great job in this, and that music video definitely helped me feel more invested for this. But I can't say I'm not buzzing to watch AEW TV. I'm watching it more and more delayed every week than I used to. I'm not coming out of it feeling like big things have happened. I don't think the matches on TV have been memorable at all. Like, it's getting more and more every week where I have to, when we do this show, I have to pull up the page. All right, what happened on Dynamite this week, to try and remind myself. And I think a couple of years ago, there was just so much happening, and maybe it's just its luster's worn off, but it's, I can't say I'm overly excited for this show.
No, I feel like one of the least hyped pay-per-views, and we felt that way about the last one. And then just selfishly, we're both going to it, and we're both like, yeah, it'll be fun. But whereas before, it's like, wow, what's going to happen? What we can't wait to see. It's like, yeah, it'll be good. That's pretty much the excitement level that we're going into. I feel like that's a big like problem, is the main event scene. As much as I love Jon Moxley, I don't know if this is the right direction. They tried turning him heel before, and then they kind of just gave up and then continued on with him being a cool babyface as he usually is. And then here they're really trying to push him to be heel, but then he's fighting Orange Cassidy and Action Andretti, and people are like, yeah, maybe where's Dan?
Hey, Orange is a top guy, I think. Like, I wouldn't lump him in the same conversation as Action fucking Andretti. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, that is true. But I, like you said, you there's no excitement for this. You don't see him winning. You don't buy it at all.
I don't see him winning now. Like, yeah. If you built this further down the line, I could see there's a shot for Orange. But I'm fucking bored of Moxley as well. His fourth reign, that's not fresh. Like, you could have done, like, fuck it. The Hurt Syndicate, they're coming in. They're trying to take over. Bobby Lashley, first match, you just strap him up. He's the champion. They're doing this takeover. They're building AEW in their image. Instead, it's like, all numbers are down. Hit reset. Jon Moxley. Give him the title. Punk has a hissy fit and punches someone. Give it to Jon Moxley. Someone else gets injured. Give it to Moxley. It's boring.
Yeah. It's not exciting. And that's your main event picture. And I don't know what other direction you're saying. What, like, have a fresh Bobby come in and be champ right away? go back to Swerve being champ. I mean,
Yeah, do something exciting. He just comes in and steamrolls everyone, and they're trying to take. They did the business card thing for a few weeks. They were trying to build allies, and when they didn't, they're like, "Fuck it, we're running shit."
Yeah, I'm sure Mox has his fans right now, and still, but I love him, but it's not hitting for me very well. I was pretty bored by their segments. I didn't even mind the match. There was like a 8-person tag match on Dynamite. It was fine, but
was there?
Yeah, I can't even remember now. What happened?
So we had Hangman Page and Christian Cage defeating the Bang Bang Gang in a tag team grudge match in the opening. You had Roderick Strong defeating Lance Archer in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and then Takeshita defeating Adam Cole. So we're getting Roddy versus MJF at Full Gear.
What? Why? What the fuck? How does that make any sense? In any I don't understand that at all. I didn't necessarily like that match either. I think they brought it to remind us, hey, remember when Roddy fought Jericho and it was actually really good? Which sounds like a lie. You'd tell someone, yeah, Roderick Strong falls the Count Anywhere match against Chris Jericho from a year ago, and people would be like, oh yeah, it was great. This one wasn't necessarily. Lance Archer.
I mean, it doesn't help when the lights are off. It backstage.
That's true. Imagine taking a bump and not anyone seeing you. I mean, take that as how you want. But in wrestling, when you're getting the slam through a table and no one saw it because the lights were on, come on.
Yeah.
Also, Lance Archer, didn't you realize you're in the complete darkness?
Yeah.
You're in the dark. You can't even see the table. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, I don't know. Because after he took the bump, they put a spotlight on them. Which is even weirder. It's no, just turn the lights on in this area. I don't know. That was weird. But not as weird as seeing Roddy versus MJF at.
Yeah, I mean, I feel this had to be the plan, but it feels like a pivot after the reactions of just going back to this feud. I mean, I see Roddy turning on Cole at some point, but this is really weird. You've got MJF barely on TV because he's filming, so he's just sending these really shoehorned in pre-filmed things from his evil lair. Roderick Strong, who's still doing the Adam stuff, which I don't find. I felt that joke died well over a year ago. I'm not enjoying this Cole MJF thing at all. But I just want them to get it over with so both characters can move on. And having Roddy in this role means that we're probably putting off MJF Adam Cole till World's End, I imagine. And it's just not interesting. As we were saying last week, I feel Cole has really lost his aura. Love Roddy. I think Roddy versus MJF should be a really good match. It just feels very strange to go that way.
Yeah. I'm sure Roddy and MJF will have a fine match. I'm fans of both wrestlers, but just the way this story has been built and been going, the stuff with Adam Cole, it's just all been very, very bizarre. I did enjoy Adam Cole versus Konosuke Takeshita from Wednesday. I'm about two ways of it, because part of me was wait, so because Takeshita wins, Adam Cole's not in the match, but having Adam Cole beat Takeshita would be stupid, right? So I was kind of happy that Takeshita wins it, but at the same time, I'm why is it Roddy versus MJF at the pay-per-view? It's kind of bizarre. Have they officially announced Ricochet versus Takeshita? I guess not. They've not announced that. I wonder if they add this Wednesday. You'd figure that would be one of the heavy.
I feel that's being announced this Wednesday. Yeah, that definitely feels like it will be on that show. It should be.
It should be to help build up that show. I'm trying to think of other stuff that happened this week on Dynamite. We mentioned Moxley and Darby, and then Darby coming down. Was it last week from the rafters like Sting, and then this week attacking him? And it just feels weird.
Swung into the fence. I'm looking forward to him v Claudio again on Dynamite. I really like their last match they had, and now having more of a heel Claudio who can be even more vicious with Darby. I think that would be really good. I really enjoyed that first one.
Swerve and Leo Rush, they had a pretty good matchup there, I thought, on Dynamite. I mean, Swerve, Leo, both excellent workers, and this whole stuff with the Hurt Locker, the Hurt Syndicate, This is where out came Bobby Lashley and the crew, and then they beat Swerve up, and basically that's announced for this pay-per-view. And I think that could be a pretty good match. It's going to be interesting seeing Bobby Lashley without the WWE kind of, product, with him being able to literally do whatever he wants, hopefully in ring. Maybe that will bring out something in him.
Yeah, I enjoyed Bobby's last run in WWE. I think especially during the pandemic, I think he was carrying a lot of stuff when a lot of the rest of the stuff wasn't very good. And I think he feels like, you listen to the interviews and stuff and the regime change and how he was kind of getting forgotten about a little bit and frustrated with that. I think he'll be coming in with a chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove. And he's against one of the best people in the company right now. And that one is definitely something that feels fresh. That one has my curiosity, and I'm enjoying everything they've been doing so far with MVP, Bobby, Shelton. Curious to see if anyone else joins that faction down the line. But that's definitely something I'm positive on with AEW right now. I've been enjoying the Hurt Syndicate stuff, and I think they've repackaged Shelton in such a great way in these few weeks he's been around. And Bobby, as always, looks like $1 million coming out there. And yeah, I'm definitely curious how that match is going to be.
Yeah, Bobby, not usually one of my favorites, but I think he's always had a good presence. He's huge. He looks the part. Like, all of them in suits always work so well. Loving this bit of a renaissance Shelton Benjamin is having with people like, oh, this guy's great. It's like, yeah, he's Shelton Benjamin. He's probably like some of your wrestlers' favorite wrestlers they looked up to back in, all these years ago. So it is cool to kind of see him and still connecting with like the crowd and everything. So I am interested in this Hurt Syndicate stuff, because I'm assuming it's just going to be the three of them, but then they had that moment with Ricochet as well, kind of teasing Leo Rush. Like, there's a few different ways.
Max Caster, they gave a card to, and they're teasing a split. There's a lot of different people that they've given their card to. I feel someone else is going to join at one point.
Yeah, someone else, because MVP doesn't seem like he's like active roster, like I don't think he'll wrestle.
No,
like unless like it's like
maybe once in a blue moon, like he was in WWE, but I don't think consistently. No.
Yeah, I know he's going to be at Bloodsport, but like I feel like he'll be mostly the manager. So adding a third person in like would be pretty sweet. So that's a match that's happening. The tag team match, that was the main event of Dynamite. I need to make sure I get the name right of this tag team. Representing the House of Black, the Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King. Did I get that right? I think so.
Yeah, so Kings of the Black Throne, they beat FTR, and I assume that means Malachi Black's retiring now and going to WWE, right?
They did hug him after the match, I think.
They hugged, they kissed, he waved goodbye to the crowd. Had a great time, guys.
He does WWE like Brett does.
Yeah. And then
I don't know why
everyone thinks I'm leaving.
Why do you think I'm leaving? I'm not leaving. I have a pay-per-view match, obviously. Yeah, you know what? I like those teams. I think FTR should have been in the match just to like juice it up a little bit. I still think they're a very hot act for some fans, and but so is Brody King and Malachi, even if people are going off on him of weird things that he's been doing. Either way, like both of these teams, I think both of them should have maybe been in this match actually, but it kind of leaves FTR off the pay-per-view.
So we have Private Party, the Outrunners, Kings of the Black Throne, and the Acclaimed are in this match. I wonder if, like, we pull the trigger with the split breakup of the Acclaimed now, or start doing some tension there, maybe some, miscommunication, that kind of thing in this match. I think the Acclaimed have ran their course, and I think it's time to break those two up. And
yeah, what's going on with the Acclaimed?
Give Anthony Bowens a good singles run, because I think he's great. And yeah, FTR not being in the match, whether that leads to anything with the Outrunners, I think FTR maybe as baby faces have ran their course a bit now, and with the Outrunners gaining some steam and that being a bit of an allegiance right there for the moment, I think that's the perfect opportunity to turn FTR, have them a little bitter that the Outrunners are in the match and not FTR. Maybe that's something you can do. I ultimately see Private Party retaining this, but it's interesting. I think the Outrunners and the Acclaimed are two teams that weren't necessarily expecting to be in this one.
I think the Outrunners are getting that Acclaim spot from a few years ago where it's like, oh, wait, they're like getting pretty popular with the fans. They're kind of, the silly stuff they're doing is getting over and they're connecting. So we might as well push them. Absolutely. I think it's working for them. I wonder if FTR ends up costing them. FTR heel versus the Outrunners. FTR as heels versus Private Party down the line makes a whole lot of sense. But I think this match could be pretty good. I think people want to see the Acclaimed break up simply because of whatever weird thing Max Caster's been doing lately with his social media and is just anytime he's on screen. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's like the guy is trying to like get himself canceled or off TV or I don't know. He says weird shit. He does weird shit. Like considering you're in one of the bigger tag teams in this company, maybe not right now, just bizarre. So I wonder if there's anything going on with like a split because they're not, getting along or they want to move on and do single stuff. I'm not quite sure, but if they do break up, like I think Bowens might be more in people's favor, like people to support him over because of the stuff Caster's been doing and saying. So
I feel it's a deliberate thing. I wouldn't read into too much of it being like it's been very scripted on TV with. Yeah,
I'm talking about I'm talking about his social media. He's been very bizarre with some of the things he's been saying over not just recently, I'd say for like the last few months. People have been like calling him out like, hey, why would you say that? Or why would you tweet that? And
yeah, I feel it's kind of tied in to his character he's been showing on TV.
I'm also bringing that up because it's like, like it seems like he's doing it on purpose because he's trying to be the heel and everything. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to be hitting. People just thinking he's an asshole like in real life and want them to split because he's dragging Bowens down. But they were a big act in AEW. Yeah, I don't know if splitting them up right now is the best thing, but maybe it is. Another match, Mercedes Moné taking on Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship.
I think in ring this could be pretty good. I haven't liked the story going into it for multiple reasons. I haven't liked the very quick and abrupt babyface turn of Chris Statlander with very little explanation. I haven't enjoyed the conflict between Mercedes and Camille. Like already, it seems really early to be teasing that tension there between them. I thought the car angle absolutely sucked. The other week. All of that being said, though, I think Chris Statlander's had a great track record on pay-per-view recently, and I think she's fantastic. And I think Mercedes, I still think Mercedes is good in ring. I think she's had a few not so good matches, but maybe that's chemistry with her opponent. I think her being against someone bigger who can ragdoll her around a little bit more will be good. I think this match will actually surprise some and be pretty good, but I haven't enjoyed the story going into it.
No, I haven't enjoyed the story. I think the only reason I have excitement for this is because of Statlander. I don't actually expect her to win, but I'll be in her corner. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's been another AEW regular that's really shined through, and I'll keep bringing up that match with Willow of how great it was. And I feel like she's at one point will be champion, whether it's at this time. Not quite. I don't think necessarily Mercedes should lose just yet, but it was weird that they flip-flopped Statlander back to babyface for this feud, and the story has just been like awful. I think Mercedes has been pretty much a bust in AEW. Like, I'm sure she brings in people and brings in some fans, but does she? Like, I don't know. Considering I was very, very high on her in WWE, she really hasn't done anything spectacular in AEW for me, considering her WWE run was very, very special. But hopefully Statlander can pull the match, because what's her best match in AEW so far? Like
Statlander?
No, Mercedes. Like, what is she?
Probably Stephanie Vaquer, I'd say.
Yeah. True. So that's happening for the TBS. There is is that the only women's match on this show? I guess, unless they add Mina versus.
I don't think I see that maybe being more of a destination for World's End. It seems.
Oh, am I crazy? Yeah, they've announced a celebration, like a champagne celebration.
Okay. Oh, finally doing that, because she's been teasing that on and on and on, hasn't she? So maybe we get an angle between the two, and you can start that feud. I see Mina, Mina and Mariah May for World's End. I think makes a bit more sense.
Yeah. Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia. You said you didn't like the angle of Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander using a car. What was going on with Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia? I saw the clip of them on Collision where Jack Perry looked like he was tied up. This storyline's getting a little kinky with these two.
Yeah, I think it's time to strap up Daniel Garcia. I think with the Bucks losing the tag titles and the Continental Classic coming up soon, I think it's a good time to maybe just have them all drop their gold and all disappear, potentially for a return as baby faces. I feel that the fact that we're going to Kenny and Gabe Kidd instead of Kenny and the Elite might indicate we're kind of just dropping that story, maybe. So I want Daniel Garcia to win this one. Perry's heel work in ring isn't really working for me. Like I just don't think he's been able to find a style which is interesting as a heel. I think he's a lot more entertaining to watch as a babyface. But Garcia's great, and Perry can be great. So I'm hoping this gets something good, but Jack Perry singles pay-per-view matches haven't really hit for me.
Yeah, I feel like two ways about it. I feel like Perry, he's had some good matches. I think of the Danielson one. And if that was the end of Danielson in AEW, it's like, man, what a waste that was, having him be one of those matches. But like, it was a fine match. And I'm sure this one will be pretty good, a bit of a sleeper hit. But I think it's the story of what Jack's been used into. Like, I think if you're capitalizing on all the CM Punk stuff over the last year and a half, I feel like the way they went about trying to capitalize on it was different. I think if you got like writers in there to maybe use that CM Punk stuff like they tried to, showing the footage, et cetera, scapegoat, all that, I think you would have come up with something a bit more exciting, or like something's missing from it, because you said you think he hasn't really connected as like a wrestler, heel wrestler. I feel like his wrestling has been fine. He's probably like a great worker, but what is this character? He can't really cut promos, so he hasn't told us anything. It's all us speculating everything. Like, oh, he's the scapegoat. Why? What does that mean? Well, he drives his car to the arena. Why? Well, he makes his own title belt in his shed with metal and then puts blood on it.
I mean,
but like,
they have explained why he's the scapegoat.
But no. But like, what? Like, I feel like they completely don't reference this. Like, they tried to in the beginning by playing the footage, and that was all the stuff with the Bucks. But since then, I think it's come down to promos. It's like he doesn't. His thing is him getting bullied by Garcia in this thing. Garcia's pushing him against the wall. It makes him look like more of a child than when he was teaming with a dinosaur. Like, it's weird. I feel like it's just not hitting. And I was someone who was like, no, this guy, it should work out for this guy. He got in a fight with CM Punk. You got like kind of a golden ticket to people being somewhat interested in, hey, this guy was this. And I just feel like maybe they haven't necessarily connected with that. I think back to when he first showed up as the scapegoat in New Japan, people were like, oh, okay, let's see what he does with this character. And since now looking at it months removed, I'm like, I don't think it's really worked. So I do think Garcia should be the one to take this title from him. I feel like this run hasn't been too impressive. Even looking back at the All-In stuff with Darby, it just hasn't really hit for me. So I think Garcia taking this title, going in a new direction, he's been someone that the crowd has been super behind and super like passionate about. So Garcia having this TNT title, he could have the open challenges again. He could, really make this exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that like Garcia seemed to be, he told Private Party he's got their backs, and he seemed to be one of the ones against Moxley's gang for like a week, but he's still coming out wearing an AEW shirt because he's proud to be AEW. So he seems loosely connected with that story, and therefore I think it's a good idea to pivot him as the champion. You could have Claudio chase him for that title. You could have Yuta chase him for that title and get him involved as a bit of a bigger name in this Moxley takeover thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like if you're building him up, he could eventually become a big star. Like the crowd is totally taken to him. I think they started him. They hurt him so bad with that BCC Jericho stuff because it seemed like the crowd were, into this character, and hopefully they still continue to be. So I'm hoping that's a sleeper hit of this pay-per-view is Perry and Garcia. Another match that I don't know if it's a sleeper hit. I think this will be potentially the match of the pay-per-view. Will Ospreay taking on his prototype, his proto star, his carbon copy, shaved head and all, Kyle Fletcher.
I'm looking forward to this. I thought their promo segment on Dynamite this week was by far the best thing on the show. I just think Ospreay is such an all-rounder, and it's why I give shit to other wrestlers that have weaknesses that they don't improve on, because it's clear that Ospreay saw like his promos are maybe his weakness, and he's gone out of his way to improve, and I think he's incredible. And I'd say the same with Danielson. Danielson was always a great wrestler, but it's been the last 5 to 10 years where his promo game just got so much stronger. Mm-hmm. And Fletcher's been doing good work. I'm not fully sold on him. I think the shaved head is definitely a better look than he was having before. There's something that doesn't completely connect with me with him because I do feel a bit, and granted they've made it the story, but we've got Will Ospreay at home. I get a bit of that with him, but I do think this is going to be a really good match, and I really like what they did on Wednesday to build this, and it definitely made it more interesting for me. And yeah, probably looking at the card, one of the matches I'm more excited for.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like an easy thing to do. They're two friends. The story is like Ospreay, helped them get in here and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good way to reset and help Fletcher, because I think he made a name for himself with that tag team, and then the tag team with injuries and stuff. And then he really started, being a regular on AEW, a singles competitor. And I think this will be the breakthrough match. That's wow. I don't expect him to beat Will Ospreay. I expect Ospreay to win, and hopefully maybe Ospreay is hey, Mox, I want that title or something. Because eventually when you see Ospreay come out, he is treated like the most wanted, needed star the crowds want, anytime. And you know what? I'm kind of happy you brought up the promo stuff, because I feel like we've talked about that for at least better half of a year now of man, could you imagine being in the locker room with Will Ospreay the last few years and you go, oh, fuck, look at this guy. He's doing insane moves, tiger drivers, flips, flops, whatever. But I got a better promo than him, though. And then in the last year, you watch, you're like, fuck, man. This guy is picking up so much steam. I love my Bret Hart. Greatest Canadian wrestler, greatest wrestler maybe ever. But come on, he wasn't the best promo. But now you got someone who's the guy you sell tickets to watch wrestling on, but now he has become a guy who's also the complete package. Sells me on why do I need to care about him versus his former friend? Well, he explains everything in a promo and does it really, really well. So Ospreay has very much stepped up as a promo guy, as a complete full package wrestler, in my opinion.
It reminds me, I watched Harry Kane on Hot Ones, and he said, I started all my training sessions only using my left foot because I needed to be as good with my left foot as I am with my right foot. And I think, and I know I rag on Ricochet a lot, but I definitely got the sense in that NXT one where I'm Ricochet. I do spectacular stuff in the ring. It's okay, but maybe you should practice with your left foot a bit more. And I think that's where Ospreay is might be the most complete wrestler in the industry today, because he saw, okay, I'm spectacular in ring. He's I want to be a heavyweight. I need to change my style while still keeping that Ospreay flair that I'm known for. And he started doing that. He started learning striking more and hard, forearms, elbows, the hidden blade, that kind of thing, adding more offense to make him more of a heavyweight, finding moves that he can hit on people bigger than him that he can't necessarily hit the Stormbreaker on. And then what else is my weakness? Promos. I need to work on that. And connecting. The way he uses his son in his promos to connect and not feeling the feeling in his hands and things like that. It's a level that gets you emotionally connected to the character, that I just get the sense so many people in wrestling don't think it matters because they can do a 450 splash.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. Like, this is the guy that came out, scrawny looking British kid doing flips and gymnastics. And then, got a lot bigger, got a lot more serious as a wrestler, like a complete package in ring of like being serious. You said the striking and the size, and then now just being everything, being like what is like a full package. Like, I think of people always compare him to Kenny, and then we had the great matches. Like, Kenny's not a great promo. Will Ospreay already surpassed him in like the promo game there. And like, I think when the time comes for Ospreay to be the face, the flag bearer of AEW, is probably when it'll help with ticket sales and people being interested. Because right now, with whatever, I understand they didn't just want to, strap him up right away, because like, it's maybe not fair. There's a lot of other people and everything, but it shows. Anytime this guy showed up in TNA, people actually watched TNA. Anytime this guy was talked about in like New Japan, he left New Japan, people thought kind of watching New Japan. It's like he's somewhat of a draw. Let's just fucking use him as the draw and put him as your champion. Put him back in your main events. Like, he's been featured in a main event this year with the pay-per-view, but every pay-per-view he's probably stolen the show. He's probably going to do it. He's going to do it again this week with his friend. And again, Fletcher is like, he's still young. He's still like a project that can work. And I think being put in a big spot like this is great. I think a big test to him was not only this week, but the week before, where, these crowds aren't that big. If there's 2,000, 3,000 people and someone starts to heckle you during a promo, you're going to hear it because there's not that many people. And I thought that both last week and this week, people were trying to heckle him while he was trying to talk. And he wasn't unfazed. He was locked in. And I was like, man, it's like when you go on SNL and someone's trying to like break you and make you laugh. And he's like, nope, not doing it. I'm focused. And I thought that's a good, like, first impression of like, hey, if this is what he's doing now, I think having Ospreay maybe be his mentor and trainer, this guy could potentially be a pretty big deal too.
It's funny you mentioning that. When I was training to be an actor, one of the exercises we do occasionally was everyone would line up and you'd have to just stand like stone faced, and the director would be like getting into your face, just trying to break you, trying to make you laugh. Once you laugh, you're out, and you've got to try and make the others laugh, and you just do the stupidest shit to try and crack the people. And it is a skill. It's especially like there's a million things going through their heads, not just remembering their lines for their promos, but where to look, where the camera is, like not being put off by outside factors that you can't control. So yeah, he's definitely stepped up his game as well.
He stepped up. I think that will be the pay-per-view match. I mean, if they do add Takeshita Ricochet, which I'm really hoping they do, they've already got 9 matches announced. We can talk also briefly about Hangman and Jay White. I think we kind of said last week, like, hey, the story's been like, okay, I'm interested in Hangman because of the chaotic madness of whatever's going on with his personality and his hair. And I'm into it. And I think they had a good match last time. I think this one could even exceed that. So I'm kind of looking forward to this as well. And that's saying a lot because it's Jay White wrestling.
Yeah, I really enjoyed their first match. I thought their last match was very good. I enjoy I'm enjoying the Hangman Page character. I think this will be another very good match, but I don't really see that the stakes have raised any more than the first time round they were having the match. And it's not like we have a different gimmick attached to it. So what is it this time that's going to be different from last time? But I think I'm going to be sat there is it the Prudential Center we're going to?
Prudential Center.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be sat there watching a very good wrestling match in front of me. But yeah, it's lacking a little bit of stakes or what separates this from their last time round.
Yeah, because it's like, what do you do with Hangman? Because he's all about how he's descending into more madness, which I'm all about. Hangman is always 100% into the story, so I think he's just an incredible performer. And it's almost like, do you put Hangman into like a mid-card title picture, have him feud with some other people, so he's not focused? Like, you can't have him in Mox, right? Like,
I mean, I think you put him in the Continental Classic. I think he's someone who can, he can take the losses with this character right now, because he fucks it up for himself. Like, he's gone so crazy, right? You can extend the feud with Jay White in that, with him maybe costing Jay White matches or whatever. Like, I think there's stuff you can do with him in that, which keeps him busy until January, when we can find a fresher feud.
Yeah. And then the real main event, Big Boom AJ taking on QT Marshall in a singles match on the final hour. Is that what this is called for the pre-show?
Something like that. The 0 hour usually. Yeah.
The 0 hour, that's what it's called. Well, Big Boom is gonna bring the boom to QT Marshall in the first time. I'm gonna be making sure I make it in for a final hour pre-show match, because this has been the most advertised match for this pay-per-view. Because I didn't see their world champion on Jimmy Fallon promoting this pay-per-view. I didn't see Will Ospreay promoting this pay-per-view. I did see AJ Bifumo, if that's how you pronounce it, on Jimmy Fallon promoting, hey, you gotta watch this pay-per-view. It's just down the road in Jersey. And Fallon's like, I don't give a fuck. But they did promote it on that show. So I thought that was pretty cool. Some crossover. That's NBC.
Yeah, they've not promoted on AEW though at all.
He is going to be on Dynamite this week.
Okay, all right. Like, I don't give a fuck about these guys. I feel it was a meme that I was over it after I watched the first video, to be honest. But
yeah,
people like these guys and people recognize these guys. I'm surprised we haven't had more on TV, and maybe there has been stuff on a Rampage or Collision that I've missed, but showing clips of them on Jimmy Fallon on Dynamite, have a segment of QT Marshall or something, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't even realize QT Marshall's still in this company.
I didn't before they announced this match. What they have announced is Big Boom AJ will be on Dynamite. He will be bringing the boom, and also that QT Marshall will be releasing a diss track, a Costco Guys diss track from QT Marshall. So,
all right.
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah, I feel maybe there was a bit more you could have done with this. It is a celebrity crossover, and I think you do want to kind of hit that home and stuff.
It's so weird hearing people be like, yeah, the Costco Guys, these celebrities coming in. WWE bringing in Bad Bunny, like fucking all these celebrities, but here we get the Costco Guys. But yeah, I'm fucking in. I'm super excited. It's so weird. My two things I'm into right now are these ridiculous the father and son combo. Oh, and you can't forget the Rizzler, who will guaranteed get the biggest pop of the night if he makes the save, which is the other little kid who does the thing with his face. He will get the biggest pop from this arena if he makes his way coming down there. But I think it's so silly and so ridiculous. Maybe I just like the Costco Guys, Big Boom AJ and Big Justice, because maybe my father never loved me just like how much Big Boom AJ loves his son and Costco. So I'm all in for some great Americana content here with just a lovely family who put out endless content. They just put out a Christmas song. It's great. It's so fucking good. Again, I've never even had any interest in going to a pre-show, but I'm going to be there. You're going to hear me on TV. You guess, best guarantee. I hope not a lot of people are in there yet, because it'll give me a bigger chance. You'll hear me screaming. So for anyone watching this match on Sunday, listen for me. I might make a sign, dude. I'm going to go all out for this. I'm going to bring the boom.
You won't. I've seen you criticize other people's sign making skills and then completely fail at even trying to write a letter on a sign before. But
I just got to make
by all means, go for it.
I just need the boom emoji printed on a big sign. But yeah, bring the boom, coming soon to Dynamite next Wednesday, and then the match is on Sunday. But ridiculous, and I'm all for it. Probably the most interested match on the show for me. So
okay, all right, yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to going. I think we sound very negative, and for me, I think it's just because for the longest time I held AEW to quite a high standard, and I see them missing so many things at the moment where this could be better. And I think the matches that look strong on paper haven't particularly had a strong build. But these wrestlers always tend to deliver on the day.
So AEW Full Gear this Sunday. Tune in. We'll be chatting about it somehow in our Uber with Andy, possibly after the case. But yeah, I think their pay-per-views always deliver. So I'm still looking forward to it. But you can tell by our enthusiasm, not the biggest hype going into this one. But yeah. So that's it for AEW. We do have a Dynamite before then. Like I mentioned, Big Boom's going to be on it. I'm sure they'll try to really send home this stuff with Moxley and Orange Cassidy. I hope so. Going into that, and then yeah. But there is another pay-per-view in a few weeks, a PLE with WWE presenting War Games Survivor Series from Vancouver on November 30th, which I think has a lot of people interested and talking, simply because the Bloodline storyline will not end, will never end. Will keep going till many of us are long gone, because I'm sure Rikishi will have grandkids and great grandkids and et cetera. So those Samoans will continue to back that ass up for years to come. But it all comes to a head with Bloodline v. OG Bloodline and Seth Rollins happening.
Hey, spoilers. Spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Sorry, did I give that away? I figured I watched SmackDown and it's Bronson Reed who's like, yeah, I'm Samoan, so I'm in the Bloodline. I'm like, oh, okay. So that kind of tells me what is going to happen with the other side. So I'm not spoiling.
So I mean, it's kind of weird. They've had two taped episodes recently. We had a taped SmackDown and a taped Raw, and I feel they kind of saved big moments on those taped shows. We had the original kind of reforming of the Bloodline happen on a taped show, and you see those spoilers all leaking out. And same here with the final teams for War Games being announced. And I don't know, it seems a little weird kind of wasting that on a tape show, knowing these spoilers are going to come out. I will say, when I first heard the additions of like Reed and Seth, I was a bit like, oh, like kind of disappointed. And that just seems weird and shoehorned in. I did think from SmackDown, I think they made Reed make a lot more sense. I think just to start with, visually, having him coming out wearing the black, not coming out in his singlets or whatever, he actually looks like he fits in with that group. And he's come out saying he's half Samoan and whatever. But also the way his story for the last few months has been, I want to be a main eventer, and therefore I'm taking out Seth Rollins because he's a top guy and I want to make a name for myself. And I think here it kind of makes sense where he sees the opening of, oh, if I insert myself into this, it's a step towards being a main eventer. I do think I still maintain it would feel a lot cleaner, just the 4-on-4. But if you are going the 5-on-5, I think they did make a good case for Bronson Reed. And I've been seeing clips of Rikishi doing the splash off the cage onto Val Venus, and people being like, this will be Bronson with the tsunami. And I think we will be getting that, and that would be a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, like the 4-on-4 makes a lot more sense. It's right there. The story has been told for the past year, but I guess they wanted to somehow make... I didn't actually mind the way they brought in Bronson, and you had him destroying like Roman, right? So it's like, hey, it actually looks like he looks like a big deal. I enjoyed Bronson more than I like some of the guys in this newer bloodline. So in a weird way, it kind of works. The only gripe I think I brought up last time is like storyline wise, if I'm thinking of like a movie series or like a TV show, like Roman at WrestleMania, they brought up Shield Seth with the chair simply to like fuck with him, right? Like that was we established this story that like why was Seth coming out to the theme dressed as him, also hitting him with the chair, and the stuff with Roman is because of like it's following continuity of years of a story. And now he's just like, actually, you can be on my team. You can, or the other way around. Actually, let me be.
I mean, I could see this building to a Seth Roman match down the line. I think, as we said a few times, a lot of this feels quite rushed, but I'm hoping we still get more storyline. Like everyone's being a bit more, way too accepting of each other. And I'm putting this, this is how I'm hoping it is. You know, when you break up with a girl and then you get back together because you miss each other or whatever, and you liked when you were together, but you don't address the issues you had. You don't address the elephant in the room of why you broke up in the first place. And you're just like, no, it was fun and we want to recreate that. And soon everything like falls apart again because you never fix what were the issues in the first place. And I'm kind of hoping that's where it is with this, because Roman is still acting like the Roman of old. You know, they're saying, oh no, we're all, there's no leaders this time, we're all level. Yet he's showing up to the arena halfway through the show and the others are waiting for him. And they're still very separated from him. So I'm seeing this as the beginning of the couple getting back together. And I hope after Survivor Series, we actually dig a bit deeper into these stories and, you know, have Roman make amends with Sammy, with Jay, etc. And then the Seth one is interesting because it was Seth who started this all, right? Like Roman had his hell of a heel run, but it was Seth who originally turned on him. And so that's where I think there is interesting story to be told there. But again, it feels rushed. And I think Seth will possibly be the original Bloodline's downfall in this match.
They should lose. They should lose. And
well,
The Rock's got to cost them the match. So
well, then we've got the whole thing with Heyman as well, which is interesting with the final moment of SmackDown with Roman trying to call the wise man and that phone being disconnected. Great gif of Roman sat in the chair. That's going to be used over and over again.
I advise you to go to our Instagram page. I've already put one with Roman staring at Mike Tyson's ass. So
perfect.
You were on the nose with that one because I was like, wonder what Roman's looking at.
Yeah. But I like that. Like, think Roman lost the title and disappeared. Heyman was still kicking around and Heyman got destroyed by the new Bloodline and Roman had abandoned him. So I think there's a story to be told there with Heyman and not necessarily being aligned with the new Bloodline, but certainly possibly with The Rock and whatever's going there. Do you see Heyman showing up at Survivor Series?
You know, I thought when I watched SmackDown today and I saw that segment with Roman, and it did make me go, hey, like obviously having the band back together of Sammy and the Bloodline was a fun segment and a fun story you can tell, but would it be the same fun story with Heyman aligning himself with Roman, or would it be a little bit more interesting and a bit more like different if you had like Heyman align himself with the other guys and more specifically like The Rock? But The Rock doesn't need promo guys because The Rock is always cutting his own promos, and these days he never shuts the fuck up with his Instagram lives and his Twitter lives and whatever, which I'm hoping comes back again because that was a hell of a Mania run. But it's like, storyline wise, TKO Rock, the final boss Rock, maybe he would pull some strings and be like, Heyman, like you should work for me, and helps elevate the new Bloodline, helps them get like championship matches. And I don't know. Cause like, does The Rock need that? Does the other guys need that? Definitely. But would it just be way better with Heyman back with Roman, because like the way it used to be and stuff. So I don't know, because I feel like Heyman will get cheered initially, but there could be some sort of swerve where he does turn. Like, is that so crazy to think? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. I like asking these questions. I like coming out of a show and still thinking about it and thinking, yeah, what is the Heyman piece to this puzzle? What's happening there? Whether is it Heyman who's eventually going to get Roman to see the error of his ways and make amends with these people?
True. Yeah.
The fact that he's completely cut him off. He's deleted his number. He's blocked him on Instagram and Twitter and all that.
You're talking about think about like past relationships and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, we've all been there too, right? Oh, let me call them. This number has been disconnected.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Silly wrestling, but it's done really, really well. And I really liked last week's stuff with the bloodline going, like with Sammy, and then now with the stuff with Heyman. It's like, yeah, it's all coming together for this big match. So with the stuff with Bronson, I think they did a good job of convincing me, just as a viewer, like, oh, that kind of makes sense. He's also a guy who likes to hurt people, and him crushing Roman was a great visual there. And yeah, I
wonder as well if Seth and Bronson take each other out before the match, like something backstage during the show or something, and they don't make it to
with all this focus. With all the focus like this, I imagine that's not the case. There could be a spot in the match where they take each other out, like whether it's off the top of the cage through a table or they fight through the back, or I don't know. But how we've said it, I think, like, regardless, is the new bloodline win with the help of The Rock. Is how I see this kind of going down, because I think before WrestleMania, I think we're looking at whether it's Saturday night's main event or Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, we do have to do Solo versus Roman.
Yeah.
To then get to Roman v. Rock, which I imagine is going to happen this year at WrestleMania, if Roman, is screwed by The Rock in this War Games match.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other things from WWE.
We're continuing the Cody and Owens feud. Nick Aldis not wanting to give him the match. I imagine we are getting that match between Owens and Kevin, but
I think you're getting that match, homie. I think you're going to be seeing that match live.
It's Saturday night's main event. Yeah.
I would imagine so, right? Like, there's still 2 weeks before War Games, and Cody is not on the pay-per-view. Like, it should be that pay-per-view.
Yeah,
but
you could do both as well. Yeah. Like,
I think you get a rematch at Saturday night's main event.
But yeah, I like the stuff there. I like this era of WWE where we do acknowledge things of the past. Like Nick Aldis and Cody obviously have a relationship outside of WWE. Nick Aldis bringing up that he's an ex-wrestler and that kind of thing. We're not just pretending. And it's something that always drove me mad, where you'd see, like, J&J Security, let's say, who were both very capable wrestlers in their day, but suddenly they're in suits and they can't do anything. I like that we acknowledge who these characters and people were, even if they would never made the name for themselves outside WWE. I'm enjoying Owens' promos being sent in on his phone and in the car and that kind of stuff as well. I like his demeanor this time round. We've obviously seen a heel Kevin Owens quite a few times. I think this is a bit of a different spin on it, where he's a little delusional and genuinely believes, no, I'm not the bad guy here. I think that match is going to be great. Obviously, it's the problem with a lot of this Cody title reign is we don't buy any of these people as viable contenders to actually win that title off of him.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the more interesting stories that he's had since winning the title, outside of Bloodline related stuff.
Like, it's started because of Bloodline, but it's like it's its own thing now because he's attacked Cody and everything. And I think it was a bit refreshing. I don't know if it's the right word, but like Cody not talking about them and talking about him felt like, oh man, here you are. Here's the, like, Cody, the reason why you're the champ right now is because you would cut these great promos, and he's the one who brings up to all this, like, hey, under that suit, you were a wrestler, and don't forget, I know you still are. And what would you do in my situation? And like kind of brings up like, should I go to Kevin's house and beat him up in front of his family? And like, I don't know. It was like, man, yeah. Cody, not just like, oh, let's talk about the bloodline again. It was a little like, okay, this is juicy. Let's get back to this. All right. So I do think we should have that match at War Games, and something screwy happens, a DQ, whatever have you, a dusty finish maybe, and then have the rematch at Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, you could almost do a similar thing to what they did at Crown Jewel. Oh, sorry, was it Crown? Yeah, Crown Jewel, where it's a bit of a non-finish or whatever, and extend the feud to a proper match, or do the match and then have a match with a gimmick, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I could see that, but so far I'm enjoying this. Like Kevin Owens, always a solid heel in WWE, and when they need to, they can heat him up like this, and it totally is believable. Totally, in a weird way. Obviously, we don't think Cody's going to drop this title. Even if he does, he's getting it back before WrestleMania or winning it back at WrestleMania. I don't think the story ends just this quickly. And however, there's like, it's Kevin Owens though, like how popular he is, this heel character, like there's a percentage of a chance that he could win, but it's way more believable than an Orange Cassidy taking the title from like a Moxley kind of thing, where it's like, you just don't see that happening because of where the story is. Here it's kind of like Kevin's like, hey, I'm not the bad guy, you're the bad guy, and I've been screwed over by these guys, what's wrong with you? So it's like like Marvel Civil War, except like, Kevin, you're the bad guy, I'm sorry. You are.
Exactly.
I really like that. Something that I also thought I would not like, and then it happened, and then I gasped audibly when Ciampa shoved Johnny.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you can't get me to care about you guys again. Shoves him. Ciampa, what do you, bro? You can't do that. And I was like, they got me again. I'd watch these two fight again. It won't ever be the same like it was before. But I hope they don't. At least not yet, because I think a heel DIY would be way more interesting than these two splitting up. I think a heel DIY should beat the Machine Guns for the titles, and then you have the Guns be chasing them for the titles.
I absolutely think that's where we're going. I really like how Machine Guns winning these titles have pissed off some of your established teams. Yeah. Street Profits, who, really haven't been having the opportunities they once did and that kind of thing. DIY never getting a rematch for the tag titles that they lost against the Bloodline. It's been I think it's been a great way of introducing the Machine Guns and making you care about them, and sort of the ripple effect of them winning these titles. I 100% see Johnny seeing it the way Ciampa does and is like, no, you're right. Fuck these guys. Like, and then getting the serious feud between them and the Machine Guns. But you've got Profits involved in there as well. I enjoyed that. And I'm like, finally, we're getting Ciampa in the role he's meant to be playing.
We're going to get Ciampa next week. He's going to be sitting down on a steel chair. He's going to talk some shit, and he's going to throw that fucking chair. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was like, oh, there you are. There's like the guy that we fucking used to fucking love, and like WWE has totally wrecked him or ruined him, but then just a single shove and Johnny's reaction like, man, your friend, what are you doing? I was like, all right, that's why you guys are still around. That's why you should be pushed. That's why I think you should become heels. Johnny as a heel is weird, but he's got Ciampa in his corner. They should have a banger of a pay-per-view match with Machine Guns. They should cheat to win, and then the Guns should chase them, have a fucking crazy, eventually, rematch it down the line quite a few times. But I think we're in for a treat with a great series of matches between these two teams. But a heel DIY is not something we've really seen, but just from that one shove from Ciampa. And again, that's me going in as a huge former, both Ciampa, Johnny fan, DIY fan, kind of as the segment was like, oh man, we're going to go to this. But the way it happened and the way they sold it made me go, oh, no. Actually, I like this a lot.
But it's stuff that I think Triple H is booking. It takes care and it remembers things. It's not, let's turn this guy heel for the sake of turning him heel. And it's a swerve, you know, you completely understand why Ciampa's pissed off. You know, he got pulled up and paired with Miz to start with, and his partner was still in NXT, and then he gets injured, and then they finally get the tag team going. They finally win the gold, and then they drop it 2 weeks later, never get a chance of a rematch, and he sees time on his career ticking away. He's already had some very serious injuries, and he's like, fuck this. Like, no, these new guys coming in, taking our spot, fuck that. And fuck you, Johnny, for not seeing it. Why don't you care?
Yeah.
And Johnny being caught in the middle. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think on the other show on Raw, we're seeing them do a great job with Xavier Woods with that as well. And we're getting it's coming out, is it next week or the week after, the New Day anniversary thing, which I sniff a kind of festival of friendship, that kind of thing happening. You have to get Big E on that show, I'd say, but it makes sense. It's not like, this tag team's ran its course, let's split them up. It's the why. And I think that's something Triple H has been pretty good at, is why is this turn happening? And everything recently, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, like all these character shifts have made a whole lot of sense, rather than Chris Statlander being, oh, well, we need Mercedes as a heel and you're free. How about you're a good person now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It feels natural. Again, I think the writing is better for some of these storylines. It feels more realistic. And I know we've been in the WWE reality era, or maybe even past it now, but this feels way more realistic. This feels way like this is how stories of different movies and shows, like this is how it happens. You don't just forget things and move on, cut and move. It's like, no, it's like if you follow everything, it all kind of should make sense. So I thought that was pretty good. And again, I just want to see heel DIY, heel Ciampa taking on. I mean, at least Johnny will get the Venom tights back. Bring those bad boys out again, right? Because he's heel. But we'll see that those guys versus Machine Guns should absolutely slap. And hopefully they run it back quite a few times, because like that's the team when they came in, like, hey, those two teams should fight. And Triple H is like, yeah, don't worry, we're going right to that. So I think the story would be interesting if they take the titles from them and the Machine Guns then chase them back for it. So hopefully
we also had the first round of the women's US title tournament and got the brackets there. We saw Bayley advance. We saw B-Fab in her first singles match ever on SmackDown, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at the brackets there, who do you see as the semis and the final?
Should it, like, Tiffany already has the briefcase, right? So she maybe winning this doesn't necessarily need this. You said Bayley already advanced.
So Bayley's advanced. We've got Bianca Belair versus Chelsea Green versus Blair Davenport. I would see Bianca advancing. Again, like going into attention to detail and history, I like the stuff between Bayley, Naomi, and Bianca, because Bayley was a dick to Bianca for a long, long time. But Naomi was in TNA that whole time. And when Naomi came back, Bayley was a babyface again.
Right.
So you got that interesting dynamic there. And I think having Bayley v Bianca in a semi-final makes a lot of sense. And then on the other side, you've got Jade Meechin and Piper Niven, and Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, and Elektra. So I see probably Jade and Naomi on the other side, and I guess a Bianca and Jade final at Saturday night's main event.
Bianca versus Jade.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But they're still the tag champs, right?
They're still the tag champs. Yeah, but I think you could start like doing. Think back to Triple H NXT booking when you had DIY face the first time in the Cruiserweight Classic, and both as baby faces, both as friends. You have the match, and then further down the line, you can actually have the breakup story.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to compare, but like, did Tony Khan book this tournament? Because it's like, oh, I have champions in it. They better be in a tournament for another title that they're going to face to win another. It's like, they're kind of already tied up in that. So part of me wants either, again, Tiffany's got the briefcase, like having her be the first one, having Bayley be the first U.S. champion, also a big deal. I kind of think last week I was talking about Chelsea Green having a Canadian win it would be all right too. But I don't know. Your way doesn't sound that bad, but it is weird because they're already champions, and it's like, let's try to get away from that, because that seemed to be the problem with WWE in the women's division, and that was what Sasha Banks leaving because of stuff like that, right? Like, hey, why are you putting me in the title picture when you're supposed to be focusing on these titles? And it's a little bit that way if you were to lean in on that. But either way, like, I think this is an opportunity for this title to elevate, like, give someone that credit, that accomplishment of being the first U.S. champ. So like a Naomi, a Bailey, a Bianca, or Jade. I don't know. Your idea isn't bad.
I just looking at the way it's set up, that kind of makes sense storyline wise. Although all those women feel like world champions, right? And I think this title should be more for the people. It should be more for your Tiffany Strattons and Meachins and Chelsea Greens and that level of woman, because you give them the IC title and then they progress to the world title. That's kind of how it's always been. Whereas I feel like Bianca, Bailey, and Naomi have all been women's champion before, and Jade I see being women's champion one day. So it's kind of strange, but just looking at the brackets, that makes the most sense, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to think of other stuff that happened. Anything else?
You know what? I was really pleasantly surprised by the main event, and I wasn't expecting that at all. I was going, wait, Naomi Nia Jax is your main, but you know what? I kind of got into this one, and like, Nia, really not a fan of her wrestling. Naomi, I like, but can be quite clunky at times, and I think a bit overambitious with the moves, and sometimes there's not that fluidity with her wrestling that you see from some of the others. But I thought they booked this in a really fun way with the stuff with Tiffany and Candice and Bailey. And part of me was like, when you go into a match, and we said it, the problem is we don't believe Orange Cassidy's going to win. And I'm going into this one and I'm going, well, Nia Jax is winning this. But they made me believe that Naomi was going to win it as it went on, which to me is a win, and they achieved something. So not saying it was match of the year by any means, but really exceeded my expectations. And I think by the end of it, kind of deserved that main event slot, which, looking at the card, you're like, why? Why is that main eventing SmackDown this week? But yeah, I had some fun with it.
I can't, Nia Jax is still a high on my list of can't do it, but I'll take your word for it. I think. But yeah, like, they brought her back for a reason, right? Like, you need monsters in divisions, and they didn't really have any other than her. So good for her. But War Games in a few weeks, and I think it's shaping up to be a pretty good show with some of the stuff going on.
Yeah, again, I believe the women's match has been announced for War Games, but I've heard bits and bobs, and I haven't really looked into it. I would like to watch Raw kind of fresh, but again, I don't know why they had a tape show this week. It was kind of strange, but we can talk about that on Tuesdays Up Next when we know the final 10 women for the women's War Games.
Nice. So there is a women's War Games. Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And then also Gunther and Damian Priest, which should be pretty good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely looking forward to all of that stuff. Anything else kind of going on? We discussed New Japan a week or so ago with their stuff leading into Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, we've had New Japan. I'm kind of still out of it right now. I'll be picking up on the storylines going into Wrestle Kingdom, but I can't say I'm devoting any of my time to New Japan.
Yeah, right, I feel bad because it's like, hey, how many times I'm like, man, they should push Zack Sabre Jr. And then they push him. He's the fucking champion. And I'm still not necessarily tuning in the way I used to back in the day when I think it was at its like height of popularity just a few years ago. But I have heard some good things, and I see people raving about certain things, and some things working and so much. I know they just did a crossover show with Stardom just like yesterday or this morning even. So I haven't read any results or anything. I might cherry pick here or there, but looking forward, like Wrestle Kingdom's in a month or so, like obviously past the holidays, and I'll check back in to get primed up for that show. But Wrestle Kingdom's on for us, would that be a Saturday and a
Oh
Sunday?
God,
That sounds awful to watch that early and that late. I mean, I'm sure some of our friends in our communities will do it. I like doing it once in a while because it's like, oh, I'm gonna stay up late and watch wrestling. But if it affects like work and sleep schedules and stuff, I might just try to watch it the day after that. But unless we convince some of, like, we have Dickie Bird, who's like up at all God's hours of the night for us because of the Australian time difference. Like if he's up, maybe get him to do some sort of post show if he's down. Or Eric Marcotte, he's always up.
Yeah, I really don't care about New Japan enough to be losing sleep at 35 years of age anymore. I'm not doing it. I'll watch it in my pajamas the next day. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom is always a good jumping on point. I think if you have, like, I consider myself a bit of a lapsed fan when it comes to New Japan. But I think it's always a good show to kind of be like, all right, let's give this a go, and who's going to win me over, and what does seem fresh, and what directions are we going for the new season, if you will, of New Japan.
And then another thing I saw was the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Some people voted in here, including legends in the wrestling business, such as Roman Reigns, the Young Bucks, Shingo Takagi, Sema, Paul Orndorff, and your dad, Johnny Saint.
And my dad, yeah, I'm so proud of him. Yeah, I think makes a lot of sense. Most of them, I don't think you can. There's no one on that list I'd really argue against being in there. I think inducting. It's always weird inducting sort of still very active wrestlers, but if you look at the criteria, like how can you not induct a Roman Reigns? He's had the longest reign in decades.
Most main events.
He's beat most WrestleMania main events, biggest gates for WrestleManias. He was the guy of the company when they signed a $4 billion deal with Fox. He was the guy in the company when they signed this huge deal with Netflix. I don't think you can deny that. And I think the Young Bucks' influence on the industry, just from being a draw for indie companies, like any indie company that you sign the Bucks, you're getting a great match, and you're selling a lot more tickets. Kind of really, like, I know sort of Colt Cabana and PWT has a lot for that as well, but the merch game as well, just pumping out merchandise, t-shirts and all that, and really helping independent wrestlers realize, oh, there's money in this thing to sell our own merch and kick around. And I really think of them as being a big part of that. And then obviously All In and AEW, and just the quality of matches, even like the last year or so where I really haven't enjoyed their characters, they still go out and put on matches like, the Fletcher Ospreay match, the Sting and Darby match. Like the high bar of quality matches is ridiculous. So I don't think you can really deny that either.
No, like they were a big part of the indie boom, right? When WWE was at a down point, the Bucks were taking over. I still see Bullet Club shirts in public today, and you think they're wearing it because of War Dogs or whoever the fuck is in War? No, they're wearing it because they bought it at a Bucks indie show or whatever. Like most of the time. So they obviously helped start at AEW. That's a big thing. Same with Roman. He's still wrestling and still thing, but he's done a lot in the last while. Like you can skip over some of the dog shit stuff that he's done in wrestling, but he finally
name a wrestler that hasn't,
Yeah, exactly. And there was a few others in that list, but I think it's a pretty fair list. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Observer Hall of Fame, this is all voted in by listeners and supporters, right?
Yeah. So it's people get invited to have a ballot and stuff. So John Pollock votes on this thing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know he definitely voted for Roman Reigns. And your dad
and my dad.
We've chatted about a bunch about Johnny Saint. Check out our Best Match Ever Europe Part 1 as we talk about who was he against. Oh man, it was a banger though. Johnny Saint in a like round match. Do you ever want to hear me praise a rounds match? This is
Stephen Gray, was that his name? Steve Gray, something
no
like
relation
that.
to Oliver Gray.
Yeah. Johnny Saint, great, and clearly influenced a lot of especially European wrestlers. And Paul Orndorff we'll be talking about in our Saturday Night Main Event 7 review, as he's in a bit of a feud with the Hulkster going on.
Great stuff. So there you go. That's is there anything else?
Mike Bailey's contract has come to an end with TNA. Rumors are potentially AEW bound. I don't know. I feel like I say this a lot nowadays, but I think it would be more interesting to see him in NXT than AEW at this stage.
Yeah. There's been stuff with him, right? There was rumors he was signing with NXT a while ago. He had the visa stuff for a while, not working in the States, but he's had hell of an indie run. Like indie wrestling right now doesn't have a lot of your like guaranteed stars or people that are like, oh, this guy's on the show, then you're getting your money's worth. And I'd say Speedball is one of those guys. Josh Alexander, another one of those guys. Like if you're at a show, WrestleMania weekend, he's definitely on it and he'll probably steal the show. And Speedball, we've seen him tangle with some AEW talent because of the Takeshita at the Maple Leaf Wrestling just a few weeks ago, which was like mind blowing, like one of the best matches of the year. So I think going into AEW, he'd have like all those crazy matches, sure, and they'd be awesome, and I'm gonna love them. But the curiosity there is like, hey, if Ethan Page can come into NXT and be champion right away, what could a Speedball do, right? Like maybe he might have to put on some shoes, mind you, but like there's a potential there that like I don't know.
I feel there's just more of a potential for a sustained push and being featured regularly in an NXT. Now, what's the ceiling? Like, will that ever translate to main roster? Maybe not. But I find AEW has such a hard job trying to they've got such a deep roster and they don't have a roster split. And they have such a hard job keeping all these balls in the air, juggling. And yeah, he'll come in, he'll have the Ricochet match, he'll do the Osprey match again, and then he'll disappear for a bit, and then might be in a TNT title feud, and then he won't be. And we just see that with so many people, and I just wonder, I can see him getting a bit more lost in the shuffle, whereas having him in like NXT as more of a top guy there, but also like part of me, I'm like, find a tag partner and go against Fraxium, because that would be insane.
The thing is, like, the AEW route is we have seen a lot of these matches. I think it'd be a safer pick for him if the reports are legit. Like, you know, AEW, maybe he brings in Veda Scott. She does commentary a lot for a lot of indie stuff and Ring of Honor, etc. So like, maybe they offer him more money than an NXT run. You know, maybe there's different reasons, a more flexible schedule. He still likes doing independence. We don't know, but the interest is like, cool. We know we're going to get great matches. I'm not like down on that by any means, because his matches are crazy. He's one of the best guys to watch, especially on the indies. It's just like right now, you know, everyone's going to AEW still, and then they're just becoming Ricochet or another Daniel Garcia. Whereas again, maybe it's not the best comparison, but Ethan Page being like one of the guys to jump the other way and go that way, and then is champion within like a month, and then, you know, is heavily featured, I'd say. Whereas if you put Speedball, maybe he's not the best talker. Maybe that's something he could improve on in being in a more, you know, pro company. But either way, as long as we get to see this guy wrestle on the main stage, kind of showcase, letting people see him that might not be familiar with him, I think he would impress on a first, because you get the people like me right away, like, hey, what's going on? Why is this guy's feet out in public? And then you watch him kick some people, and you're like, oh shit, this guy's pretty good. So as long as he's getting paid, I'm kind of happy about that. And he's a Canadian boy, so either way, I think the cream will rise to the crop. He's been the guy to watch in TNA. He's had all the good matches everyone's been talking about. It's been him and Josh Alexander. So it's about time he kind of goes to the next level. I think maybe was up. He never was their world champ in TNA, but they made him X Division champ, and then he like dropped it right away, and then he was gone, and then now this is happening. So yeah, maybe he wanted to make these changes, but we haven't. There's no confirmed thing with AEW, but like you would imagine that's
would be the rumor. Yeah. I think that's it.
That's it. That's all. That's it. That's talking about wrestling this week. Like I said, we will be back on Tuesday with a new Up Next on Post Wrestling, talking all about some NXT at 10:05 p.m. So join us on Tuesday right after NXT, and then catch all the other shows. We have Eagles Don't Hunt Flies. We got a Detox. We got What Up Doe, all on this feed. Shot in the Dark, See No Evil, filling you in 15 minutes or less on all the wrestling that you may or may not watch. All these free podcasts here on Poisonrana. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Write us a nice little review, 5 stars if you can. It goes a long way. But if you want to hear more, patreon.com/Poisonrana. $5 to become a friend gives you access to hundreds of shows, including Best Match Ever Abyss, Best Match Ever Machine Guns, our Halloween Havoc 95 review, our Fall Brawl War Games 96 review coming out very soon, our Saturday Night's Main Event coming out very soon. Did you say number 7 was the one?
Number 7.
Very excited about that. As including lots of other shows, the Suicide Squad review coming out. So lots and lots of pods over on our Patreon. We keep you entertained all the time. So go check us out if you haven't already. We appreciate you.
Do it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We love you very, very much. Follow all the socials, like we said earlier, to keep yourself in the loop of our travel journeys to Full Gear this weekend, and I can't wait. Can't wait to bring the boom. You can follow me at the Braden on all the platforms there,
and follow me at Davie Portman.
That is it. That is all. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And boom!
Ahoy!
Poisonrana.